Hey there, lovely soul. Welcome back to Noah's Stories. Have you ever faced a moment where love demanded a sacrifice greater than you ever imagined? Today, I'll share with you a heart-tugging story of courage, heartbreak, and a love so powerful it could heal even the deepest wounds. Stay with me. Let's dive right in. Emily Carter, a beautiful and intelligent young woman, was in her final year studying hospitality management at a small community college in Texas. She was the sole hope of her mother, Linda Carter, who had spent her entire life working tirelessly to raise her daughter. Linda's past had been anything but easy. At just 16, she became pregnant by a foreign soldier and was disowned by her family. With nowhere else to turn, she left her small hometown behind and moved to Dallas, carrying the tiny life growing inside her. There, she found work as a waitress at a small diner. Life's hardships eventually forced Linda to take a job at nightclubs as an event coordinator, just to earn enough to send Emily to school and build a better future for her. Despite growing up in poverty, Emily never once felt unloved. Linda cared for her with all her heart, shielding her from the world's temptations and dangers. Linda had only one dream: for Emily to graduate college, secure a decent job, and live the life she herself had never been able to experience. On one quiet evening, when everything seemed to be falling into place, a nightmare suddenly shattered their world. That night, Emily sat at her desk, diligently finishing her final assignments for graduation. The world around her was peaceful, with only the faint whisper of the wind brushing against the window pane. Suddenly, a frantic knock shattered the calm. Emily rushed to the door, startled to see her mother's former coworker, Monique Reyes, struggling to support a weak and barely conscious Linda. "What happened to my mom, Monique?" Emily cried out in panic. "I'm not sure, sweetheart," Monique panted. "She kept complaining about a terrible headache and then suddenly collapsed. I had to get her here as fast as I could." Emily's heart clenched in fear. She quickly helped support her mother, feeling how limp and cold Linda's body was. "Mom, can you hear me?" Emily whispered, but Linda only fluttered her eyes weakly, her face twisted in pain. Without hesitation, Emily called for an ambulance. During the tense ride to the hospital, she gripped her mother's hand tightly, whispering prayers under her breath. When they arrived, Linda was immediately rushed into the emergency room. Emily stood alone in the sterile, cold hallway, tears streaming down her face. After what felt like an eternity, a doctor emerged, his expression grave. "We've conducted several tests," the doctor began. "Your mother, Linda, has a malignant tumor in her brain. She needs immediate surgery." The world collapsed around Emily. Struggling to stay composed, she asked, "How much will the surgery cost, doctor?" "The surgery and subsequent treatments could range anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000, he replied. It was an amount Emily had never even dreamed of possessing. She felt like she was being swept into a storm with no escape, her heart breaking as she watched her mother fight desperately between life and death. Emily left the hospital in a daze, her heart drowning in pain and despair. The dark night blanketed the city of Dallas, mirroring the darkness clouding her mind. She knew she had no one to turn to, no relatives, no substantial savings, only a small amount she had tucked away for her upcoming graduation. Curling up on a bench near the hospital, Emily broke down into helpless sobs. She had no idea how to save her mother. At that moment, Monique Reyes, Linda's longtime friend, found her. "Emily," Monique called softly, sitting beside her. "I know you're feeling hopeless, but I might be able to help." Emily looked up, her eyes swollen and filled with a fragile glimmer of hope. "How?" she whispered. Monique hesitated for a moment before speaking. "You know, I'm working as an event manager at a high-end club. There, young and beautiful women can earn a huge amount of money in just one night if they're willing to keep company with VIP clients." Emily froze. She had never imagined she would hear such a suggestion. "You mean, like an escort?" Her voice cracked. Monique nodded gently. "No one will force you, but if you want to save your mom, just one night could give you enough to cover everything." Emily's heart twisted painfully. She hated herself for even considering it. But images of her frail mother lying helplessly in that hospital bed kept flashing through her mind. With trembling hands, Emily wiped away her tears. She knew she had no other choice. "All right," she whispered, voice quivering. "I'll do it, if it means saving my mom." Monique squeezed her hand tightly. "You're strong, Emily. We're going to get through this." Emily clenched her fists, reminding herself that this was just a small sacrifice for the greatest love she had ever known, her mother. The next night, Monique brought Emily to Club Vela, a luxurious nightclub nestled in the heart of downtown Dallas. From the glittering lights to the smooth jazz music, everything radiated a world of opulence Emily had never even brushed against. Her heart pounded as Monique led her inside. Emily wore a simple black dress, her makeup light and delicate, still looking somewhat innocent amidst the lavish crowd. "Just smile, be polite, and don't let anyone see you're scared," Monique whispered, squeezing her hand reassuringly. Emily nodded stiffly, trying to steady herself. Not long after, Emily's attention was drawn to a corner of the room where a young man in a sharp black suit sat conversing with the club manager. His face was striking, his eyes cold but undeniably captivating. "That's Ethan Villarreal," Monique murmured. "One of the wealthiest VIPs here." Before Emily could react, the manager pointed toward her and Ethan turned to look. Their eyes locked for a fleeting second and Emily felt frozen in place. The manager hurried over, whispering, "Ethan picked you. Get ready." Emily almost forgot how to breathe. Her knees threatened to give out, but the memory of her mother lying helpless in a hospital bed kept her grounded. She was led over to Ethan. Up close, he was even more breathtaking, but the coldness he radiated made her shiver. "Emily, right?" Ethan asked, his voice low and rough. "Yes," she mumbled. He smirked, a half-smile that carried something unreadable. "I want to buy a night with you, but I have a special offer." Emily swallowed hard. "What offer?" Ethan leaned back casually, his deep eyes boring into her. "3 months. You stay by my side for 3 months, I'll pay you $500,000. The world seemed to freeze around Emily. $500,000? That amount could save her mother and even change their lives. Her heart raced. A bitter but clear choice stood before her: her freedom or her mother's life. Emily sat across from Ethan in his luxurious penthouse, still unable to fully grasp what was happening. She had agreed to the deal, 3 months belonging to a stranger in exchange for $500,000 to save her mother. Ethan watched her intently, his expression unreadable. "Starting tonight," he instructed, his voice calm yet commanding. Emily could only nod. She kept reminding herself this was just a transaction, no emotions, no expectations. But on the very first night, everything surpassed what she had imagined. Ethan wasn't gentle. He was cold, possessive, treating her like a belonging. Emily felt humiliated, broken, but she gritted her teeth and endured for her mother's sake. His eyes darkened as he sensed the awkwardness, the genuine fear, and, most importantly, her innocence. Ethan stood stunned. In his world, women who entered such agreements were never untouched. But Emily, she was different. She had given up her purity, her very soul, just to save her mother. Quietly, he released her. His expression conflicted as he looked at Emily, trembling under the dim lights. Why are you doing this?" he asked, his voice hoarse with emotion. Emily bit her lip, fighting back tears. "I need the money to save my mother." Such a simple answer, yet it cut Ethan deeper than any weapon. An innocent girl, willing to sacrifice everything she had for the life of a loved one. He turned away, clenching his fist to steady the emotions storming inside him. From that night onward, Ethan's treatment of Emily completely changed. He no longer touched her harshly, nor did he look at her with disdain. Instead, he became gentle, caring for her in small, tender ways. Breakfasts he made himself, stolen glances when she smiled, lingering moments as he silently watched her sleep. And Emily, despite herself, began to feel her heart stir. She sensed that beneath Ethan's cold exterior was a lonely man, scarred by past pain. Between them, an invisible bond began to form. Fragile, hesitant, but achingly sweet. One night, after Ethan returned from a long meeting, Emily found him sitting silently in the living room, his face exhausted and lonely. Without thinking, she approached and placed a cup of hot tea before him. Ethan looked up at her, his usual cold eyes unexpectedly softening. He murmured, "Thank you." Just two simple words, but Emily's heart thudded painfully against her chest. Despite her better judgment, Emily began to feel a fluttering deep within her. She knew she was falling into a relationship that had no future. Yet each time she caught a fleeting warmth in Ethan's gaze, she couldn't help but hope that somewhere beneath his icy facade, there was a heart capable of loving. Still, she knew too well she was just a deal, bound to last 3 months. And when those months ended, so would the dream she foolishly let herself believe in. As time went by, the bond between Emily and Ethan grew deeper. Although neither of them admitted it, both could feel the invisible connection steadily strengthening between them. But then, harsh reality quickly pulled them back. One morning, while Emily was preparing breakfast in the kitchen, the doorbell rang loudly and urgently. Before she could react, the door was pushed open forcefully. Standing there was an elegant woman with a cold expression, Veronica Villarreal, Ethan's mother. Veronica stepped inside with an angry face, her icy eyes sweeping over Emily. "This is the trash my son is supporting?" she exclaimed with disdain. Emily froze. Ethan hurried out from the bedroom, his face full of surprise. "Mom, please don't do this." But Veronica ignored him. She marched up to Emily, scrutinizing her from head to toe as if evaluating some cheap item. "You think you can worm your way into our family with that cheap face? A girl without a father, without a name, daring to dream of climbing up?" Unable to control herself, Veronica raised her hand and slapped Emily hard across the face. The slap rang out sharply, making Emily stagger, tears instantly welling in her eyes from shock and pain. Ethan quickly rushed forward, grabbing his mother's shoulders. "Stop it, Mom!" Emily clutched her cheek, trembling, her heart torn apart. She looked at Ethan, the man she secretly loved, but he remained silent, offering no words strong enough to ease her pain. Unable to endure it any longer, Emily fled from the penthouse, ignoring Ethan's frantic shouts behind her. Her heart shattered, her legs carrying her blindly across the crowded avenue. The screeching sound of tires pierced the air. Everything blurred before Emily's eyes. She only felt a tremendous impact, and then her body hit the cold pavement. Screams erupted from the crowd, the flashing lights of cars blending into a chaotic nightmare. Ethan brushed after her, his heart stopping when he saw Emily lying motionless in a pool of blood. "Emily?" he cried out, cradling her broken body in his arms, calling her name in desperation. The ambulance arrived quickly, and Emily was rushed into the emergency room in critical condition. Ethan never let go of her hand the entire way. After an agonizing wait, a doctor finally came out, his face grim. "We were able to save Miss Emily, but she was pregnant, and we couldn't save the baby." Ethan stood frozen. His hands trembled. His heart felt as if it had been ripped to pieces. He had no idea Emily had been carrying their child, and now he had lost everything. In the days that followed, Ethan hardly left the hospital. He sat by Emily's bedside day and night, holding her cold hand, whispering apologies he had never had the courage to say before. "I'm sorry. It's all my fault," Ethan murmured, his voice choked with emotion, his eyes bloodshot from sleeplessness. Day after day, he stayed by her side, clinging to even the faintest sliver of hope that she would come back to him. And then, one morning, a miracle happened. Emily's fingers moved slightly. Ethan shot upright, his heart nearly stopping. He called for the nurse, tears streaming down his face as he watched her tired eyes slowly flutter open. "Emily," he whispered, gripping her hand tighter, his voice trembling. "Please come back to me," he choked, tears falling freely down his face. She looked at him, her gaze empty, as if struggling to remember everything. "She will need time to recover," the doctor explained, "and she will need a lot of love." Ethan nodded, more determined than ever. From that day forward, Ethan never left her side. He cared for her meals, her rest, with the devotion of a man who had found the most precious thing in his life and would never let it slip away again. One afternoon, when Emily was finally able to sit up, Ethan entered the room, carrying a bouquet of white roses and a small, sparkling ring. He knelt beside her bed, his voice trembling. "Emily, I've already lost too much. I can't lose you again. Please, will you marry me?" His voice cracked with emotion, and his eyes held a desperate, trembling hope. Tears welled up in Emily's eyes. Her heart, though scarred, could not deny the sincerity shining in Ethan's gaze. She nodded slowly, and for the first time in a long while, Ethan cried, but this time he cried out of pure happiness. After Emily woke up and nodded to accept Ethan's proposal, their lives moved into a new chapter, filled with hope. During her recovery, Ethan remained faithfully by her side. Along with the love he showered on her, Emily also drew strength from another joyful news. Her mother, Linda Carter, after a long period of treatment, had finally regained her health. Linda was discharged from the hospital and returned home, her face glowing with happiness as she watched her daughter find someone who loved her with all his heart. Moreover, Emily's patience and sincerity slowly melted Veronica Villarreal's heart. Over time, witnessing Emily's silent sacrifices, her strength, and her kindness, Veronica realized that this young woman was neither lowly nor greedy as she had once believed. One afternoon, Veronica gently approached Emily, took her hand, and said, "You've endured so much. If you'll allow me, I would be honored to officially welcome you into our family." Emily couldn't hold back her tears of gratitude. And so, a simple yet deeply meaningful wedding was held in the small garden behind the Villarreal estate. There were no extravagant gowns or grand ceremonies, only sincere hearts gathered to celebrate true love. The afternoon sunlight bathed the garden in a soft golden glow, as if blessing their vows. Linda Carter proudly held her daughter's hand, her eyes brimming with pride and fulfillment. Veronica, though maintaining her composed appearance, couldn't hide the small smile tugging at her lips. When Ethan gently slid the ring onto Emily's finger, tears of happiness rolled down both mothers' cheeks. That day, not only were vows exchanged, but wounded hearts found miraculous healing. 2 years after their wedding, Emily and Ethan's life was more blissful than ever. Emily gave birth to beautiful twin daughters, whom Ethan lovingly called his little angels. The sound of children's laughter filled their mansion, breathing vibrant life into their home. But that wasn't all. Ethan poured his love and support into helping Emily realize her childhood dream, opening her very own bakery. The little shop, named Sweet Heaven, sat cozily on a street corner in Dallas, bustling with customers each day, drawn not only by the delicious treats, but also by the warmth Emily brought to every creation. Every morning, Ethan would carry their 2 girls to the bakery, sitting quietly in a corner, watching his wife mix batter and decorate cakes, his eyes brimming with love and pride. Their little family, once battered by pain and hardship, had finally found a simple but perfect happiness. And no matter how many years passed, no matter what challenges life might bring, Emily and Ethan firmly believed, as long as they had love, they could conquer anything together. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and subscribe to Noah's Stories for more heartwarming journeys. Until next time, lovely soul, keep believing in the magic of love and kindness.